Welcome to Biz Tips with Jenny Rice, bringing you insights from real entrepreneurs. No fluff, just raw, practical strategies from those who've been in the trenches. Whether you're launching, scaling, or pivoting, this podcast is your backstage pass to lessons, successes, and game-changing tips. Get ready to learn, take action, and level up. Let's dive in with our next guest.
Hi, this is Jenny Rice with AI Biz Tips Podcast. I'm so very excited about our guest today. We have Wale Oyerinde from Lude Creative. He's the founder of Lude Creative. Welcome.
Hi, Dennis. Thank you for having me here.
Yeah, I'm really excited to hear about you, your background, because you have from what it sounds like, such a wealth of experience and insight. So why don't you start with sharing with your path to where you are today?
Absolutely. So thank you for having me again, first of all. And again, my name is Wale. And so my background was actually in consumer science. I went to school to study consumer science. I've always been interested in fashion, and I thought I was going to study fashion design. But when I got exposed to some of the practices in the early stages, because I was just on the consumer end of fashion, so I wasn't really exposed to some things. And like the production processes and the fact that you have to make samples so many times, there were just a lot of things that personally didn't align. So I told myself I was going to study the business of fashion and try to understand the consumer behavior of, just fashion as a whole. And then I did that. And a big part of my major was still trying to study design. So I took my passion from fashion and try to go into this education of design to understand exactly what some of the challenges are. And over the course of my career, I've had a lot of my colleagues who were moving up the ladder in the same role, but I found myself always going horizontal. When I find myself in any role, I always go deeper. I always want to know what is in here and how can we make it better. So from that end, I went from design into working in e-commerce. I started editorial styling. I did creative production. I did social media marketing, but the industry has always been fashion, beauty, and lifestyle. So this experience actually it exposed me to a lot of things in different aspects of this industry. And over the past years, I've just been thinking about, okay, how can we make this better? And this was before AI. This was before any of these tools. And I've just been thinking as an independent thinker, how can we make this better? How can we make this process is seamless? Because I've been exposed to it. A lot of people have not been exposed to it. A lot of people will say no to some practices being assisted with AI today, but I can tell you that will be beneficial because I was actually in those shoes and I know the challenges that I face in some of these processes and some of these jobs. So when AI happened 3 years ago, I started learning about AI, trying to understand how I can use that as part of my production. And just to give you a little backstory, I lost my job in 2014 because this was when social media was also coming around and a lot of businesses were diverting their budget to digital production. So I, as a person who was working in print publication, I got laid off because a lot of the budget we were being given was being sent to digital. So I was out of jobs. I was applying to jobs and I wasn't getting any feedback. So I thought I was going to take the time to learn about social media. Few months down the line, I got some of these brands, some of these companies and businesses who hired me again for me to help them, for me to use my expertise in social media and also my traditional retail fashion experience. And that became something I've done for the past 8 years. And now we're going through this phase again where we have another technological revolution, because this is something that will always happen every 10, 15 years or so. And what has surprised me is that a lot of people, the reaction is always the same, but because I've lived one experience before, I'm very strong about the fact that, we're entering another phase and just trying to educate people, and which is what I do at Lude Creative, which is helping brands, especially small brands, who traditionally, the creative production process is expensive. It's not something that the marketing processes, it's a lot. You require so much resource. But now that we have these tools and these small businesses, because now I'm having friends who are actually becoming small business owners. So I keep thinking, if I cannot even help the people who are closest to me, then what's the value of the knowledge that I have? And which is why, I started this agency, which I've been using to help brands. We've worked with creative campaigns for our Warren and Michael Kors and, digital campaigns, and using this expertise to teach small businesses and independent solopreneurs, like the ways that you can create, the ways you can, include this tool as a part of your process. It doesn't have to replace it in its entirety, but you just need to identify what areas you're going to get most value. Like, where do you have the bottleneck? Like, where's your pain points, and how can you use this tool? I think the first stage is trying to help people open their mind, because for you to actually even see what's possible, you need to be willing to open your mind and actually see what the challenges are. And traditionally, the fashion industry is very, very traditional. As much as, fashion is supposed to set the trend, in some cases, I'm always surprised. Like, how come, we can set the trend for the season of what colors and floral pattern, but when it comes to some of these big challenges that we need to actually address, we're not doing that. And so this is what I've been doing, and just trying to, share my knowledge, my expertise, and my experience.
Wow. I love your story and how life happened, and, life gives you lemons and you made lemonade. Right? You took that opportunity to enhance your skills, and then it turned around and you went back and you're even better because of it, because you were in the printing publications and now you went into the social media, the digital part, and now you're enhancing it with the AI piece of it. So you're almost like ahead of the trend now, because a lot of people are trying to jump on the AI bandwagon, but they don't have that expertise. They don't have that knowledge or the time and the ability to learn that insight and combine it with your experience, which is really exciting.
100%, because this is also one of the questions I ask people while working with AI today. I always like to know people's why, because personally, I'm not just jumping on AI because it's the next new thing. It's something that, I was shooting at a time in LA here. I was shooting for Nylon magazine, and the skirt that we needed for this editorial I was shooting was stuck in Milan because they just used it for another shoot. And for that piece of item to be sent to LA, it's probably going to take me 5 working days. And I think it was $2,000 at the time to get this sent down. So my team and I said, no, we got the authorization of Gucci at the time, because there's a Gucci skirt. We're like, okay, can we have this digital print for this skirt so we can replicate it? Because it's a print magazine. You're not going to an event. So it doesn't matter if it's like a physical version of it.
Right.
So they sent the digital, and we were able to do that in a matter. We're able to complete the editorial we shooting in a matter of a day. So, and this was all before AI. This was back in the day of Photoshop. So now that we have this AI tool, it surprises me that people didn't have issues with including Photoshop as a part of that process, because, that's also a tool. And now we have this more advanced tool that can do a lot more. So yes, of course, I know we should be careful. There's a lot of fear around it, but we shouldn't lead with that. That should be something we need to have at the back of our mind. Like, okay, the way we use this tool, we need to be careful. We need to be mindful, but we don't lead from there, because when you lead from there, you're not going to take the right step that you're supposed to take. So even as I'm creating and using AI, I'm very cautious with the kind of data that I created, the information, and, I'm very mindful. And I think that's the only way we can, move through this. Like, use it, but be mindful, and also have a why behind it. We're not just using it for the sake of using it.
Right. I like how I read what you said, is that AI does not replace your creativity, it amplifies it.
That's correct.
Right. It sort of becomes I almost see it as a partner, a creative partner, to help you brainstorm, to help you think of things, help you get solutions, but you still have to be the owner of that content.
That's very true.
So
Your material and your outputs is just as good as the inputs. That's what I say.
yeah.
And I know right now, a lot of people have a ton of experience, like 10, 20 years of experience in a field, are feeling this change differently, because they've spent so much of the career, they've spent so much of the year, they've gone to school and spent so much money. And I get it. There's enough reason to be upset or to not want to adopt this tool. But what I try to encourage people is find people who use AI and see how you can collaborate, because your wealth of knowledge, your experience, your skills The machine doesn't know any of that. And the more you can work with it by giving it some of this information, to give it context and to give it to make it understand your pain points, the more it's going to be able to give you something that really addresses your problem.
Absolutely.
You might not be able to use the tool. You might not have the technical know-how. Same today. Not everybody knows how to use social media. You get someone to do it. Yeah. Collaborate with someone that's able to do it. You don't have to be the one, but first of all, like I said earlier, being open at the possibilities. It's fine. The technical know-how is something you can figure out later. But when you're open, all of those things will show up and you find the right people, find the right way to use it to your advantage.
Yeah. I love how you're combining your background with your interest and your digital knowledge to help other people that can't go dive deep like you did. Right? They don't have time or the knowledge or the ability or the desire to go in there and become that expert. But so you can help them get there. And then because you're so creative, you can put that creative element in there with the solutions too, right?
It's about, it's a creative collaboration. That's how I see it. And I think that's how we would move forward. Because when I think about also when we first had the internet, for example, there was literally nothing online, nothing. There were a few websites we could actually browse. But until we as individuals collaborated and, fed the system with our research, with our, so many things. And that's how we're able to go online today and find some of this information. Because without that, you're not able to use this tool. And I think it's going to be the same thing with AI.
Yeah.
The more knowledge and experience, it doesn't matter. You're a designer, you're an architect, interior designer. The ways that you can collaborate with people who use this tool to actually expand your vision or narrow down your processes, because some processes are just redundant in my experience of doing one thing 4 times, when you can use AI to do that first part. Once you get it approved and you're sure okay, this is the final, then you go ahead and do the actual production, because this way you're wasting less time, you're wasting less resources. You're keeping all of those things that we're very used to. And humans are, we're creatures of habits. We're very used to what we're used to, even if it takes us 10 processes or 10 steps to complete something. But sometimes you just have to let that go and be able to open your mind and see things from a different perspective.
Absolutely. I love it. I love how your perspective on that, but also that it's an add-on. It's not a replacement.
Absolutely.
It's a support. You still have to have that creative force, you still have to have the ideas, you still have to have what you want to create, and then let AI help you get there, right?
100%. And I see a lot of people use AI differently, ChatGPT or whatever tool. And I always you see a lot of people, they have a question, they go to ChatGPT and pop the question. And it's almost like if you run a business and you hire an assistant, you're not just going to throw something at the assistant to do it right away. First of all, you need to train, you need to educate them about your brand, your tone of voice. This is what is okay. This is what isn't. And when it comes to AI, it's exactly the same process. Before you ask, give it knowledge, give it wisdom, give it your take and whatever, just download, give it as much information and let it do the work before you then go ask. Because then when you're asking, it's not just giving you a generic result, it's giving you a result that is specific and based on your pain points.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, it's been fascinating having you on here. As we sort of come to the end of the podcast, do you have any tips for other, business owners, how to integrate AI in there? Because you could see both sides of the coin here.
I would say the first thing is to keep your mind open. I think, things are always going to change. That's the world we live in. Things are always going to change. Keep it open. You don't always have to jump on right away. Try to go through your processes and try to see where do you have pains, where do you have difficulties, where you having challenges. And then from there, you'll be able to find ways to, to train, to adopt AI, or even train it with some of the information that you have, and then be able to use it as your creative partner. I think that's the future we're heading into. We wish it to go back, but it never really does. But it's all about how can we move cautiously and also while we're thriving.
Yeah, like I said, move forward mindfully, right? So that we're aware of it. And then, if you don't have that expertise in-house, get somebody like you, Wale, that can help them integrate the tools with what they want to accomplish and be that sort of that interpreter with your area of expertise, where they might know their business, but you know how to integrate that with the AI tools, especially when it comes to fashion, right? So
that's very correct. Yeah. So Lude Creative, that's what we do. So please feel free to reach out. We're happy to help you.
Absolutely. It's been wonderful having you as a guest. I've learned something. As I said before, your energy is just really contagious. So thank you for being a guest.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So this is Jenny Rice with the AI Biz Tips podcast with Wale from Lude Creative. Thank you again for being on as a guest.
Thank you.
That's a wrap on this episode of Biz Tips. For more insights, join us online. We share exclusive tips, resources, and strategies to help you grow and scale your business. Until next time, keep building, innovating, and making an impact.